Hey guys, Haley here, talking to you from the back of the BMW again. So today I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about tires. Tires are probably one of the more hotly contested items with motorcycling. And I'll say that my experience is going to be very focused on sport bikes. So I don't know anything about any other kinds of tires because I don't own any of those bikes. And also on a very aggressive street riding or track riding. I don't do very many long trips. I do have a trip coming up on this bike, which I'm going to vlog the whole trip. But for the most part, I do not do long trips on this bike, and I haven't on any of my other bikes. So I'm very focused on track riding, and for me personally, I try to find a good balance of value and performance. I tend not to buy the most expensive tires because my opinion is I'd rather spend less money and have more money to buy more tires than blow all my money on one set and try to run them to cords. So anyway, I'll go ahead and jump into it. I'd say there's probably 3 categories of tires that I'll cover today. The first one being moderately aggressive street riding with some longevity tires. Tires that fall into this category are Power RS's, some of the Pirelli Corsa Diablos, and I'd say the Q4, maybe Q3 Plus. The next set of tires is the hyper aggressive street tire that's really just a street legal DOT. And that's going to be like your Pirelli Super Corsa TDs, the new Cup Evo Michelin tires, a Q4, kind of. The Dunlops fall slightly differently just because the Q3 Plus and the Q4 are so close together. I'll link the main differences between them, but for the most part, you know which tires I'm talking about. And then the final one being slicks, just straight up slicks. And I'll just caveat it with I don't have a lot of experience with slicks. I've never ridden slicks, but just I include them as a category because I'll reference them, not that I have any experience with them. So the main reason to run a street tire, I'll break them into street tires, track tires, and slicks. Street tires being what I have on this bike, which is the Corsa 2 whatever, or like a Power RS, or even lower like a Pilot. The main reason to ride that is you want spirited riding, but you still want the longevity. And the main thing there is these tires are either bi or tri-compound. So they have a strip down the center that is not the same material that's on the shoulders. So what ends up happening is when you do a lot of riding like what I'm doing right now, where you're just cruising along in a straight line, I'm 100% on that center strip right now. So my wear is moderately good. When I say moderately good, I think you could expect around 5,000 to 7,000 miles. Obviously everyone's mileage is going to differ based on your riding habits, temperatures, power of the bike, a bunch of stuff like that. But for the most part, you're gonna see around 5,000 miles on those tires. The next set, I'll call them track tires, is a tire that oftentimes still has the center strip, but the compound on the shoulders is more aggressive. And I'm just gonna touch really quickly on what I mean by that and why it matters. A lot of people have a misconception that the traction provided by the tire is actually provided by the tread, which is really incorrect. There's 2 main forces at play. There's a third one that I'm not going to talk about, but 2 main, and that's the chemical grip, which actually provides the vast majority of your grip, and then mechanical grip, which is actually what's provided by the tread. The tread on a motorcycle tire does not really serve a purpose besides removing debris, mostly water, from the tread surface. And so what happens is when you ride over water, the tread actually pulls the water away from the contact surface and allows the rubber to come in contact with dry-ish pavement. So what you're really doing with the tread is you're just getting an opportunity to have more chemical grip, which is really the grip that matters. Because what happens is the rubber actually secretes fluid, and that fluid makes the tire very sticky. If you've ever been on the track and gotten off the track, you've probably noticed that your tire is actually sticky to the touch and has picked up all kinds of garbage. A lot of times even other people's leftover tire bits. That's what makes a tire look like this. But anyway, that's really where you're getting most of your grip on a tire on a motorcycle, especially on the track. And that's really where the compounds differ. When we talk about compounds being, you know, more longevity on the center and stickier on the outside, it's the kind of fluid it secretes and how quickly it does and at what temperatures it does, and there's a whole bunch of science to it. But the gist of it is that the stickier a tire is, and the fluid that it excretes makes it stickier, the shorter the life of the tire. And there's a balance to be had there. Some compounds do better across different brands, and I'm not going to get into all that, but really you're looking for where is the compound on the tire and how am I going to be using it. If you're going to be using it as a track tire, your center compound doesn't matter as much. Your side compounds matter a lot because you're going to be spending a lot of time up on the side of the tire. And with slicks, for the most part, slicks are all one compound. They don't have a strip of a separate compound. So you have all that same material across all angles of the tire. And what you end up getting is you get really good grip at every point, and it's all the same kind of grip. You don't have different grip in the center. Now, this is not at all to say that you can really feel the difference between those two sections of the tire. Like, for example, my Power GPs, which are just Power RSs that I run on my track bike, I can't really feel the difference between getting off the really sticky shoulders and onto the less sticky center strip, because what has happened at that point is I've stood the bike up enough that I'm not demanding as much from the tire. I'm more straight up and down, and I'm just using my throttle to modulate. I do sometimes notice that when the bike has been leaned over and I'm getting on the throttle really aggressively, but I'm at the same throttle position, I'll feel a little tiny difference in grip. The back end will start to slide a little, but for the most part, you have to be pushing the tires really hard to feel that. And I don't think your average rider is going to notice it. And it's definitely not detrimental. It's not slowing me down at all. So yeah, that's the main difference between the three kinds of tires. And then obviously price. Slicks are much more expensive. You're going to wear through them really quickly. Track tires are less expensive than slicks, but still very expensive. And you're going to wear through them not quite as quick, but very quick. And then those more street-oriented tires are the cheapest, usually, and you're going to get the most life out of them. As a reference point, a lot of the schools that do track riding schools, like the Yamaha Champion School, they don't run slicks on their bikes. They run full-on street tires. Even one of what I would consider to be the lower tier of street tires, because the riders doing those classes do not need that much grip. Most people don't need that much grip, and they get more longevity out of the tires. I think, though, for most average track riders, you really want to hit that sweet spot of what fits your budget and what's going to allow you to replace the tires when you're supposed to replace the tires and not end up nursing a tire a lot longer than you're supposed to. For me, that sweet spot happens to be at the Q4, Power GP, Power RS, that kind of level. I can get a set of those for right north of $300, right around $300, and that keeps me in tires. So that's kind of where I stay. If your budget's better than mine, you got more money to spend on motorcycle power, some more power to you. And you can go run slicks. Keep in mind with slicks, you will need warmers if you don't already have them. But you're running slicks, you know better than me. So anyway, let me know your experience with tires. If you run a full street tire, like a Pilot or something at the track, I'd love to hear your experience. I've never done that. I do think it would be an interesting experiment. I'd actually like to maybe try these tires on the track someday, the Corsas. But yeah, let me know what you think, what kind of tires you run. And if you've had experience with slicks, let me know too. I'm looking at some point switching up to slicks, just not yet. So I'd love to hear your feedback on what the differences are between those. So until next time, enjoy the ride. See ya.